This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV Profit.
Welcome back. You're watching Opening Fire right here on Profit. The Nifty as well as the Sensex, 0.1% higher, still about where they were. From the start of the trade, cooled off, but no major changes. So 38 points on the Sensex and about 10 odd points on the Nifty right now. Overall, broader market performance is still slightly better off. We're going to be talking a little bit more in terms of what's been happening in the retail space. Get in a special guest as well from Clark's International. Ms. Melissa Porter will be joining in. But before that, let's get in Mr. Rakesh Biani of Pantaloon Retail to talk a little bit more about the industry and how it's shaping up, and then we'll get Ms. Melissa Porter to join into the discussion as well. But Mr. Biani, you want to take it off first with the overall sentiment and mood around FDI?
I think clearly there's a sense of relief that the policy is going to get implemented, and the way forward now is to let the states also define some of their rules and regulation. But in the meanwhile, I think all the foreign investors or the retailers from overseas would definitely look at the country, look at where the states are permitting it, the potential partnerships that could be created, and considering that it requires a significant amount of investment, the $100 million cap, minimum cap that is there, and with back-end investment. So the plans would have to be created, which would allow the investments to come in. My feeling is that there's got to be a minimum period of anything between 6 to 12 months, by which time we would see companies moving to get permissions to open stores in India.
There were some talks that there would be some constraints, even if states go ahead with it. There'll be a lot of constraints put forth, and it'll take a long process because then you'll have to look at getting permissions from FIPB, DIPB. So it's not going to be a fairly easy process.
Well, I don't, getting permissions from FIPP, DIPP, these are part and parcel of any FDI investment in India. There's a well-defined process that takes place to do that. Similar permissions are required anywhere else in the world. So it's nothing that India is asking to you to do more than what anywhere else is required to be done. In the past, there has been FDI in India in the single brand space, and approvals have come in on regular basis, and I have not experienced any delays in such approvals.
In terms of certain criteria, you think that there could be a possible mismatch in terms of what the companies here want vis-a-vis companies coming into India? Could there be a bit of a contention there?
I think there are just three criteria which are critical, right? Or maybe let's put it four. The number one is that the investment needs to be $100 million. 50% of that needs to be in back end. 3, you can only open stores in states which have allowed you to open stores under FDI regulation. So I would say that these are your key criteria, right? And the fourth one is the 30% sourcing out of India. I think 30% sourcing is definitely doable. In fact, we'll find that most retailers would be doing a significantly higher amount of sourcing within the country because the need to import is not very large. India has a very large manufacturing base, and almost everything related to food, etc., all of it can always be will be procured out of the country itself. So I think there's not much. There's no much ambiguity as such in the kind of things that people have to follow. So I'm not too sure what criteria is that you guys are worried about, or what any expert is worried about.
Mr. Biani, you for yourself at Pantaloon right now, is there a potential, if at all, things sail through smoothly? Are you looking at a potential foreign a partner?
I think in the past also we've said the fact that we would typically create partnership where it makes strategic value together. First, strategic alignment, thinking together to address the needs of the Indian consumer. And in any scenario where we are able to get partnership done on that basis, we are happy to work together. We've done that past in the single brand space. We'll be happy to look at that even in the multi-brand space.
Is the industry really in requirement of capital at this point?
I think what you need to think is that over the next maybe 7 to 10 years, we're looking at an additional consumption of close to $600 billion in the country. That $600 billion of additional consumption is almost 1.5 times of the current consumption of $400 billion. Now, that is what needs to be catered to. And that needs to be catered to at a price which the customer can afford. So for that we need efficient supply chain. We would definitely require new investments in the back end. We definitely require new investments in the front end. Now, all of these are investments and investments for the long term. Capital is required. There is a limitation in terms of amount of capital that you can raise within the country and the cost at which it comes. And if you are able to get expertise along with the capital, I'm saying it's a welcome thing that needs to happen in the country.
So let's talk about what's new for Pantaloon Retail in terms of overall business operations, various brand tie-ups. How are things working out there?
I think we've been very focused on the existing business, and we're currently focusing on getting more and more efficiency out of the existing business, and that's what we have been doing. We have seen a good festive season compared to the previous 7-8 months, and trends are looking positive. We believe the fact that that's a trend which will go forward also. So we really focused on that. We've kind of a lot of the investments that we needed to do in the back end, etc. We have done that. Now it's to ensure the fact that we're taking our maximum benefits of such investments, and that's where the entire team is currently focused on. Next year we would look at reworking a lot of our assortments to keep in line with the consumer's expectations. The consumer is moving also very fast, and I think we need to continuously keep pace with the customer's expectations.
You've done many brand tie-ups in various segments, including fashion, including footwear. Consolidation in any of these particular segments, and any more brand tie-ups that are there in the pipeline for you?
I think we have already decided to consolidate all our fashion and brands and distribution and the investments within that category under the new entity, Future Lifestyle Fashion, which would hopefully get listed by March or April. And we're going to be focused there. We are currently identifying the gaps in our portfolio. We believe there are gaps, and we would look at continuing negotiations with potential partners, or look at ideas where we could ourselves create brands to fill up these gaps. That's a process. Typically, processes like this take anything between 6 to 12 months before you will see them in the marketplace.
Right. Mr. Biyani, you want to comment? Melissa will be joining us in just a few minutes right now. You want to comment on how the alliance and the venture with Clarks has been?
Well, Clarks has been an amazing relationship. We've really enjoyed working together with them. It's a company with tremendous history, 185 years plus history in retailing footwear, now almost all over the world. And the kind of expertise that they bring in on board with our India knowledge, I think the partnership has worked extremely well. We have been able to deliver plans which we created almost 3 years back, and currently the team is exceeding the plans. The consumers in India have accepted the product extremely well. I think the whole approach on joint venture has worked very well in terms of being able to position the brand in the marketplace of India. It's not about simply just bringing in the product, adding a price onto it, and telling the consumer you must pay a premium because it's coming from overseas. I think the joint venture has allowed us to work together to create a long-term position for the brand here, and that's what we have been very successful with.
All right, I think Melissa is ready. Melissa Porter, CEO of Clarks International, she joins us right now from Delhi. Melissa, firstly, welcome to the country, and hope your stay right now is enjoyable.
Thank you very much.
And you want to comment on what are your big plans? You've already achieved a lot since the time you had this venture with the Future Group, but big plans on the charts going forward as well?
Well, we've been very pleased with our progress in India. We were very pleased to be able to start working with the Future Group because they bring a lot of expertise on the Indian market. And by the end of this year, we're going to have opened about 30 stores. We've got about 200 points of sale so far all over India. And our plans over the next 5 years, we're hoping that we can open about 100 stores. So it's a very important market for Clarks and a market that we think is going to be very much part of our growth plans for the future.
Overall, with these plans, in terms of, the amount of funds requirements, I mean, how does that get sorted out with the kind of store plans that you have, 100 plus stores?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
The requirement in terms of funding for these 100 stores?
Yes, well, we are, over the 3 years since we started working with Future Group in India, we've invested about £10 million, and we're planning to keep our investment going for the long term. We regard this as a long-term partnership.
Mr. Biani, I want to bring you in. I mean, alliances and ventures such as you have with Clarks, these are incrementally more important as well, right, for the industry as a whole to go forward in terms of the money that comes in, overall brand build up and new products that come on the shelf?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of single brand and multi-brand. Both are required. Single brand addresses category niches and it allows the category to expand significantly. And the partnership with Clarks has also achieved the same here. I think irrespective of being which brand, single brand or multi-brand, at the end of the day, there's an investment which flows in the country. There are jobs which are getting created both at the storefront and the back end. New logistics facilities are being created across the country for every category of product that we bring in. At the end of all of this, ultimately there is an expansion in the marketplace. This is what is going to address the growth potential that I've been discussing earlier. This is where the Indian consumer will go. Indian consumer's appetite to consuming more and more is what we are trying to feed into.
Melissa, you've seen the growing appetite from the Indian consumer, and this is a very big market across for retail in particular. What kind of trends have you picked up in terms of a growing market? Melissa, can you hear me?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was just asking you about, you've been in India with the tie-up with the Future Group over 2 years now. Overall, what have you made out of the growing appetite of the Indian consumer?
Well, we've been very pleased by the response we've had to the Clarks brand because it's not a brand that's necessarily very well known in India yet. But as we've been opening stores, we've been finding that consumers are becoming quite familiar with the brand. They like our products. I think we've got a style which appeals to Indian consumers, and actually we're finding it very interesting learning about Indian consumers and their tastes and making adjustments to our product offer so that it's just right for the consumers in this market.
Right. Just one last word in terms of geographies, cities in particular that you're going to be concentrating on more definitively going forward. Melissa?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was asking you about, where exactly your new hubs, where you intend to concentrate in terms of different cities, where exactly you see most amount of interest building up in different cities of India. Metros, you're looking at some tier 2 cities as well.
Yes, well, at the moment we're concentrating most of all in the big cities, so in Mumbai, in Delhi and in Bangalore, but we're just starting now to move out into tier 2 cities. We're very interested in the idea of being able to do some franchising, and we think that will provide us with an opportunity to grow into more cities. And we've just launched an online program as well, which is very early days for us, but we think that will be another way of reaching more consumers nationally around the whole country.
All right. Melissa Potter, Rakesh Biani, thanks very much. Really appreciate the time that both of you all have taken out and joined us on the show with, the outlook going forward. Thanks a lot. That's Melissa Potter, CEO at Clarks International, as well as Rakesh Biani, Platinum Retail. We're going to take a very quick break on that note. We'll be right back.